Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Anupama, Professor at Department of Economics, Punjabi University, Patiala. I am going to talk about the module Post-Industrial Spatial Transformation of Cities and Mega Projects, Retail Development and Leisure Projects from Population, Urbanization and Poverty. So students, as the name suggests, we are going to discuss how the cities in modern era are changing in design, especially in the context when new types of shopping malls are emerging in the market space. We will also discuss about the growth of the small retail shops along with the mega projects and other layer projects. Economic development of any society can be understood through various stages of growth. Economic theory has elaborated this growth process through a number of theoretical models which exhibit how an economy moves from a traditional society through the age of high mass consumption. Through this process, the economy undergoes through structure transformation in which the society moves from subsistence agriculture to an industrial society and then to a society dominated by the service sector. These models are actually based upon the assumption of a closed economy. However, in today's globalized world, the structure transformation takes place with new type of dynamics. The international division of labor, made possible by globalization of production and mobility of the factors, has turned the growth of industrial and service sectors without any bounds. Now, in a post-industrial society, the industry changes its location to unexplored market areas, where the inputs are also relatively cheaper. This paves the way for dominance of the service sector. So, in this perspective, this module aims to throw light on a post-industrial city, globalization and mega projects in a post-industrial city, the typology of the mega projects, the types of mega projects, new neighborhood projects, the retail projects, and the reasons of growth of retail stores. It will also discuss the growth of hypermarkets, superstores, convenience, and forecourt stores. This module also aims to throw light on development of the leisure projects. Now we can define a post-industrial city. According to Oxford Dictionary of Geography, a post-industrial city is a place where service industries dominate with the strongly developed quaternary sector and footloose industries abound, often on pleasant open space at the edge of the city. Post-industrial cities are also characterized by large areas of office blocks and buildings for local government administration. These cities often exhibit marked inequality of income distribution because of the contrast between those who are appropriately skilled professionals, managers, administrators, and those in high technology service industry, and the poorly paid service workers who look after their needs together with the unemployed. The former can afford high house prices and in fact contribute to them, but the latter cannot. Globalization and mega projects in post-industrial city. The growing process of globalization with the increase in transnational flows of skilled and unskilled labor, technology, speculative capital, and foreign direct investment promotes competition between cities and territories for qualified labor, companies of dynamic economic sectors, and foreign investment. In short, there is a formation of a global competition between cities for attraction of these elements with high geographical mobility. As a result, the cultural and urban regeneration policies increasingly try to prepare the city to compete for those transnational flows and to attend external users at the expense of local residents. In general, the projects aim to combine the physical and functional recuperation of abandoned and or deteriorated areas with the creation of a new local economic base. These projects promote financial and consulting services, leisure, tourism and entertainment, retail, trade, etc. Despite presenting common objectives, the projects produce different results considering the peculiarities of each city. Therefore, each city needs its own regeneration and management policies to keep their competitive edge. Today, in cities of the developed and emerging economies, we can observe physical manifestations of ongoing development whose forces are more or less governed by post-industrial tendencies. The fragmentation of urban tissue is a result of strong private interest and investments with a very loose public or governmental control over resources. In the situation when huge portions of inner cities, mainly the industrial zones and port facilities, become obsolete due to the shift towards service activities. Contrary to the private city and the laissez-faire policy of the industrial period, contemporary post-industrial city asks for collaboration of private investment and policy leadership, or to be more precise, for a clever political guidance of entrepreneurship. In order to be more competitive from the outside, the post-industrial city has to be less competitive on inside. What is needed for such a strategy is obviously a planning methodology of any kind, presently lacking in most cities going through a transitional phase towards post-industrialism. Whereas the government want to ensure sustainability, equity, and optimum use of public space in a city, the private developers want to maximize the returns from their investment. With increasing competition and availability of space for developing various projects in these cities, the developers continue to expand the scope of their vision, creating mixed-use projects that combine residential, commercial, retail, and entertainment elements. Over the past decades or so, these mega projects have revitalized urban areas, transforming the way that people live, work, and spend leisure time. The mixed-use revival reached its apogee with the 162-floor Burj Khalifa Tower in Dubai, the tallest building in the world at the time of its completion, that is on January 2010. The 828 meters high, 1.8 million square foot tower can accommodate 30,000 people and combines 1,000 residential apartments with offices, 3,000 parking spaces, a leisure complex, designer hotel, restaurants, indoor park, a giant shopping mall named intriguingly the Old Town, and a mosque. Burj Khalifa introduces a gargantuan form some of the contested interpretations that accompany the mixed-use concept. For some writers, the vertical city offers a model for high-density, sustainable urbanism. For others, Burj Khalifa represents the zenith of the post-industrial city shaped by perpetual flows of global capital that create urban megaprojects. Of course, these larger, more complex megaprojects also entail significant challenges in design, planning, cost, construction, schedules, among many other areas. In addition, these megaprojects entail the numerous challenges that accompany development in an urban or previously developed setting. This requires that the planning of the cities has to be shifted from the use class orders to multi-use spaces. This points towards the need of construction of buildings or mega projects which have a mix of shopping complex, cafes, restaurants, officials and light industrial sites, storage and distribution, hospitals and care homes, schools, entertainment, etc. Such mega projects are mix of the wide range of attributes and manifold influences associated with the concept, requiring the engagement of a combination of physical and spatial characteristics, policy drivers, and social qualities. The physical characteristics of these mega projects should also take into account the level and type of integration of different activities, ranging from single to multiple buildings that may incorporate different uses in both vertical and horizontal planes. Alongside land use planning, a series of the other primary and ancillary policy drivers can be identified as shaping the character of a mixed-use development. The orientation of a mega project towards housing, shops, or offices can be seen not purely as a commercial decision on the part of the developers or a design decision on the part of architects, but as a response to a range of issues that form the basis of the planning process and the complex negotiations between developers and the local governments. Looking at the typology of mega projects in a post-industrial city, we can expect different types of mega projects. These can be stand-alone mega projects, the urban infills, the residential-led, commercial or retail-led and new neighborhood projects. All of these may have different types of physical and spatial characteristics requiring different policy drivers. Number 1. Stand-alone mega projects. The physical characteristics of the stand-alone projects exhibit the integration of home and workspace in a single privately owned building. Such projects may have about 50 flats in an area of less than 0.5 acres, along with the shopping complexes. These may be located in the heart of the city or in suburbs of a city. Such projects require the urban regeneration policies to have a mix of the strategies fulfilling the commercial as well as residential requirements at the same place. The second one is urban infill. The urban infill suggests a scheme with greater spatial ambition that encompasses more than one building, though it may include vertical integration within single buildings, as a part of the planned intervention to redevelop an urban or suburban site. Such a project would typically be residential-led but include two or more additional uses and be linked to several ancillary policy drivers. Such projects may comprise apartments which may go up to 500 in number, a convenience store, a restaurant, and offices distributed at various floors, blocks of the buildings. The urban policies regarding such projects may be oriented towards a regeneration of brownfields, town centers, or council estates, that is, on public land. The third type is that of residential and commercial-led mega projects. Such projects are of significantly greater scale and form part of comprehensive urban regeneration programs to create new pieces of the city. Such projects aim to use land more than 5 hectares. As the name suggests, the residential-led projects aim to build more than 500 homes along with other uses of building, while the commercial-led projects have more than 50,000 square meter office or retail space along with other uses. These projects essentially are multiple building projects with both the vertical and horizontal built areas. The new housing, based on a traditional street network, is integrated with retail, business, leisure, health, and a variety of community uses, with an emphasis on creating a livable place capable of sustaining local economic activity. The fourth type is that of new neighborhood projects. Such projects may be of any of above 3 types, with environmental concerns at the center point of the urban policy. They aim at sustainable urbanism. The ideas of livable cities and urban villages are the examples of such projects. With rising environmental issues, the urban policies evolve the strategies to optimize the use of urban space through various projects to be located at the single site to reduce the environmental cost of transportation. Here, we can cite the example of 7 Millennium Villages developed in UK, wherein around 10 hectares of land, about 1200 homes, are built on a waterside brownfield site where a range of uses including shops, a post office, a community center, health facilities, primary school and public space in the form of a piazza are intended to foster a sense of community and identity. Such projects are characterized by urbanity, the diversity of communities, as well as the environmental sensitivity. Thus, we can say for sustainable development of the cities and for increasing the global attractiveness and competitiveness, in today's era of globalization, carefully planned mega projects are the only option to optimize the use of urban space while watching the environmental concerns. To be very specific, we can also discuss about the retail projects and the leisure projects. Now we can discuss about the retail projects. Retail is the sale of goods to end users, not for resale, but for use and consumption by the purchaser. The retail transaction is at the end of the supply chain. Manufacturers sell large quantities of products to retailers, and retailers attempt to sell those same quantities of products to the consumers. The retail activities are not location specific. These can be performed through door-to-door sales in specified markets in multi-use retail shops, shopping malls, and even through online ports. However, in a post-industrial city, the retail industry, which is an important and ultimate link in the supply chain, has been transforming itself in a number of ways. These cities are now moving from single brand or single product retails to multi-brand and multi-product retails, all under the same roof. The cities are actually vying with each other to attract the global players in retail to increase the global competitiveness of the cities. In the emerging economies, the retail business is one of the most profitable businesses. With consumer confidence improving and spending increasing, global retailers continued their expansion into these markets. In the recent years, the cities of the emerging economies have been successful in attracting US-based Walmart, France-based Carrefour, UK-based Tesco, and Germany-based Metro Group. These retail giants are expecting many exciting and lucrative opportunities in some of the smaller, more far-flung markets around the globe. By finding the right locations and investing into their desirable projects, the retailers can make an immediate impact and create a long-term advantage in global competitiveness of the cities. There are certain indicators set by global giants that guide the cities about the areas in which they can improve themselves in order to increase their competitiveness. For example, A.T. Kearney Global Retail Development Index measures the attractiveness of a particular place on basis of 3 indicators. These are the country risk, population size, and wealth. Thus, in order to be attractive to global retail projects, the cities ought to be immune to all the business and political risks, a vast market in which the purchasing power and the consumer's taste match that of a post-industrial society, and an organized policy-supported retail market. The retail projects in the cities may assume many forms such as hypermarkets, supermarkets, discounters, convenience stores, variety stores, warehouse clubs, and super centers. The attractiveness of the cities to the retail projects also depends upon the time factor, which measures how fastly the retail sector is growing in a particular place vis-a-vis the growth of the GDP and consumer spending. The cities have been moving from traditional retail methods to the modern ones, which have induced the retailers to devise new ways to optimize their returns. While there are trends towards mega projects, the global retail players are finding it more profitable to move to small stores, and the consumers also wish to have small shopping trips due to rapid urbanization and traffic congestions in the center of the cities. Due to a number of reasons shown in figure 3, the shoppers as well as markets are changing in ways that favor small stores and smaller shopping trips over larger store formats. We can observe from this figure that the market is now suffering from the problem of rising transport costs due to rising fuel prices and the saturation in the market, while the conducive legislation, high street vacancies, and the trends of urbanization seem to be drivers of the growth of small stores in various parts of the city, instead of having a centralized big store in a centralized location. The consumers also want to have short market trips. This change may have occurred due to the change in age composition of the population. The increase in proportion of the senior citizens, the need of a utility store close to home has increased. Even for the young population, the fast pace of their life rarely permits them to go often to the shops for their daily requirements in a distant place. The increased household responsibilities of single households have also played an important role in increasing the need for small stores near home. This has led to highest growth rates in sales by small-sized convenience stores, discount stores, and e-shopping. However, the total sales of the supermarkets and hypermarkets are still the highest among all types of retail projects. Figure 4 shows that the growth of the hypermarkets and superstores and supermarkets and neighborhood stores are the lowest, but still they will remain the top earners among all type of retail projects. We can also find the regional differences in the sales of the supermarkets and hypermarkets to observe how the post-industrial cities are performing in case of the mega retail projects. This can be observed from figure 5. The figure shows that the sales by the North American countries are still the highest, followed by Western Europe, but the growth rates are highest in transition economies of Central and Eastern Europe, followed by developing economies of Middle East and Africa. Thus, though the location of these retail projects currently has their greater presence in the developed world, but they are also focusing upon the emerging economies. Despite slowing expansion in the developed countries, these retail types will remain by far the world's largest grocery channels. Another important feature of these projects is that due to spatial transformation of the urban areas in a post-industrial society, these projects are now trying to downsize to more compact formats, for example, between 3,000 to 5,000 square meters. They are also adopting new strategies of e-commerce, in-store kiosk, click and collect drive, as well as adopting the additional facilities and entertainment features to increase the dwelling time of the shoppers within the premises. In contrast to it, the small-sized convenience and forecourt stores are becoming popular in the cities of the developed countries, even though their current presence is dominant in the developing one. In the emerging economies, the retail business is one of the most profitable businesses. With consumer confidence improving and spending increasing, global retailers continued their expansion into these markets. In the recent years, the cities of the emerging economies have been successful in attracting US-based Walmart, France-based Carrefour, UK-based Tesco and Germany-based Metro Group. These retail giants are expecting many exciting and lucrative opportunities in some of the smaller, more far-flung markets along the globe. By finding the right locations and investing into their desirable projects, the retailers can make an immediate impact and create a long-term advantage in global competitiveness of the cities. The leisure projects. In a competitive world, the life is moving fast. The work stress is higher and the social relations no longer provide an emotional support. In such a world, people want to buy happiness and relieve themselves from stress by spending quality time with the family once a week or once a month. Hence, the recreation parks and leisure services have become an important part of urban planning, the mega projects and even the retail projects which use it as a strategy to increase the dwelling time of the shoppers in the shopping mall. The leisure projects in the cities constitute a major force in the local as well as the national economies and are responsible for millions of jobs in varied fields such as government, travel, tourism, popular entertainment and the arts, health and fitness programs, hobbies and participatory and spectator sports. Apart from the direct economic benefits, these projects also provide major personal benefits in terms of meeting physical, emotional, philosophical and other important health related needs of the participants. In a broad sense, the leisure life of a city or a nation reflects its fundamental values and character. The very games and sports, entertainment media, the group affiliations that people enjoy in their leisure help to shape the character and well-being of the families, communities and society at large. For some, recreation or leisure means the network of public agencies that provide such facilities as parks, playgrounds, aquatic centers, sports fields, theaters and community centers. For others, it may mean Golden Age Club, a club for physical fitness, togetherness, etc. While for the tourists or irregular visitors, it may mean something else. But for the city planners, it means evolving all of these features in their overall urban project. They also need to create the supportive services for these projects, and the challenges are immense in a post-industrial city where availability of the space is the major issue. The planners have to take into account what the public demands and what is desirable, and how the gap between the two is plugged, so that the leisure projects are minimizing the possibility of crimes and optimizing the positive effects for the well-being of the families and the society as a whole, and how to evolve the leisure projects as an integral part of the urban regeneration policies of the post-industrial cities. Such stores meet the daily needs of the people nearly close to their homes, workplaces, petrol pumps, that is the places of their daily visits. As we have already discussed, the post-industrial cities are having a high purchasing power, but are also facing the problem of aging population. Faster lifestyles and long distances between the homes and the central market, the convenience and forecourt stores are very easy options. And they are now shifting to this retail type for their daily needs. Thus, we can say that although the retail projects of supermarket type are still earning the greatest revenue in the cities of the developed as well as the developing economies, yet the trends are shifting towards the small size projects which may be housed in a multi-use mega project. So students, let us sum up what we have learnt from this module. In this module, a broader view of the changing needs of the post-industrial cities has been provided. These cities are shifting their economic base from an industrial society to a service-dominated society. In such cities, while the space is being created by the old industrial houses as they move to other low-cost places, more of the space is required for varied needs of the increasing population of high-income professionals, new business houses, and the global players. The strategies of optimum utilization of city space have to be charted out to increase the competitiveness and the attractiveness of the cities to the global players, along with raising the quality of life of the residents. For this purpose, the multi-use mega projects are the only answers, but appropriate planning is a major challenge that has to be met with great degree of astuteness and wisdom. So that's all with today's lecture. I hope you must have enjoyed it. Thank you.